Okay. Is this working? Yes? Okay. Very fine, very fine. I didn't think it was going to work, so we are a lot farther than what I ever expected. So yeah, amazing, almost beautiful, symphonic. Yeah. Anyways, hello everyone, welcome to another edition of this beautiful day. Today, it is a very low energy day. I can accept that, and I can literally no problem with saying, but yeah, this is a very low energy day because I forgot to change the fucking day. Anyways, because it didn't that I had a struggling, it is rather that I had when you know so far needing to adjust my god, adjust my sleeping schedule and all of that. So yeah, we were still struggling with those possibilities and all of that. But aside from that particular thing, sorry for getting distracted. Hello everybody, welcome. I hope we can have another nice occasion. I hope we can enjoy another beautiful shot. I will say today, probably, as always, hello lurkers, hello chatters, hello beautiful watchers, hello everybody. Today we have ahead of us a nice, I mean, a very nice, a very good, a very interesting thing that is, as always, the possibility of pondering, because that is only what we are going to do today. I have already some ideas on my mind. I think I need to bring my focus over having one of them in particular. So I'm trying to keep that in mind while also going over other things which I was kind of concerned about, because I was thinking I was properly kind of analyzing, and it has been more than simply a good ride so far. We are kind of taking huge steps somehow. I've never really realized how incredibly great it is, how everything has been going on. And when you look back and you see out of nowhere how well you're performing, it feels almost not as if it wasn't deserved, but rather as if it came out of um, an illusion or a place in which it feels as if it wasn't really. I don't think. I think, yeah, the word that keeps popping up in my mind is not deserved, but I think it is more like of not comprehending your efforts and all of that. But I mean, that is personal stuff. So, anyways, continuing with more interesting rambles and continuing and finally starting on something that already will feel interesting because I had this particular idea because I was watching something and they kind of mentioned not in this way. They talk about the idea and the concept, you know, of how it could be possibly something useful and something interesting, say, to try and basically go use your time and even more your resources in the whole exploration and even more enjoyment of socializing. And one of the main things that they kind of say, they didn't say it in a positive light. Rather, they gave the other side of this, that is, if you want to destroy your social relationships, you should not allow others to talk, and you should not allow others to be who they want to be, and all of that. And I think I'm done. Anyways, it it was referring to the idea of how you can make your whole life worse and how you can, in this case, also kind of make it harder not only for you but for others to enjoy your company and to enjoy being around you and all of that. And in that sense, something that was pronounced and I had a little bit of an interest was you should make conversations always around you. Kind of a very known concept that when it comes to socializing and all of that, because we always tend to know and we always tend to, I don't think it is a realize, we always tend to talk about the necessity of when you want to have social relationships, you need also to let others approach you, let's say. You can't only give who you are and almost feel as if it was a need for you to constantly not only validate but keep proving and proving what it is that you are in a deeper, not only human level, more like, mm, how to say it. I think the proper definition would be something taking to, yeah, not so deep in reality, more like in a more social manner, probably. Let's say like that. In a more social manner, it means basically that you need and you require, or you should find an interest, basically, in exploring and even more in comprehending and delving furthermore what you already know and what you already um, want to focus the relationships themselves to be based on, because nothing will really come out of nowhere, let's say. And wait, I forget about this stuff constantly. I hate this. I am really starting to get annoyed at this. Uh, not television. It fucking crash. Amazing. Video, I love it. I love it so much, video. This feels amazing. This feels. Yes, there it is. We are more refined and also I also blew my nose and all of that, so you are better than me. Wow. Anyways, what I was going for was when you want to have social relationships, you should try to make them, so to speak, um, very open and very focused on the. Well, I don't think it's the issue. A good way to try and approach the act of having social relationships is one in which you accept that both parties need to engage in an active conversation, and even more, one in which both sides need even more to feel an interest about the other side, let's say, no matter what it is that is happening. But in that same sense, if it is also true that because you keep constantly kind of being or bringing back the focus to you, and because of that you annoy other people, and even more you kind of make others distantiate themselves from you because they do not want to be someone who is so overly egotistical, let's say. It ends up meaning that you should try to avoid it. And in that same line, I was interested in exploring the idea of, okay, we have that said and we kind of comprehend that concept from before, right? But on the other side, what or how do we regard the act of asking questions and the act of trying to be the one who is constantly poking the other person with questions? Because I do not know, and I never, in that sense, I never saw it like this, that maybe asking too many questions is also a way to be or to constantly bring back the conversation to things that you and only you really enjoy. I mean, a good argument will be you are asking things that only you have an interest in knowing, and even more sometimes because we tend to ask things that are known so, or yeah, because it is impossible to ask so clearly mm, objective things, and even more so clearly visible things. Therefore, we require or we kind of expect the other person to open up. We, with our questions, force the conversation to be centered in almost a judgmental way around the questions that we make and the questions themselves being something that kind of brings shame. Not always, I think, but at the same time, if we are going with this argument, how it is that we can even know if it is that it doesn't always apply? Because I think part of the act of trying to have a good question is the side of you have an interest and you have a desire to know something more from the other side, but it still is something that is only born from you. I think. Mm, yeah, I don't think like. Oh, well, give me a second. Give me a second. Yeah, because I think let's keep expanding in this way. Because obviously, if you are being so overly focused on things that only you yourself want to happen and you yourself want to know, you are forcing the other person to speak and to almost fulfill the role of an entertainer more than anything else. It doesn't really become a conversation anymore, but rather you take a different approach, one in which you become not the main focus of the conversation, but rather one where it stops being a conversation and it devolves more like into an interrogatory kind of communication or a questionnaire full of things that you want to know because you want to have a better knowledge about who the other person is and blah blah blah. And yeah, I would expect that to not be probably. I do not completely know. Probably be the most interesting, even less enjoyable thing. If you want to also know the other person, oh yeah, if you as the one who is being interrogated wants to also have a social relation with the other one. I mean, in that sense, yeah, okay. Do you have anything else to really add with this? No. Okay, then let's go to the other side because I think while I was saying that, I was also thinking, okay, it might be true that it can become a kind of interrogatory and even more it has the potential of being an overbearing wave of questions. But when you have social awareness to the degree to which you can basically see if the other person is responding or not, something that literally is called, I think, in this case, social awareness, because it has literally nothing to do with almost anything else. And it almost has nothing to do with real things that real people has to go through. It is more like, let's say, you are calling that social awareness because you feel like it is more adjusted to that kind of category, when in reality it is simply mm, the the skill. I don't know if it is a skill because it is very obvious when somebody is answering or not your questions, when somebody is giving a response or not, because we are not referring to something so deep or so complex as, oh yeah, are they giving a full response? Are they giving a completely engaged response? No. Are they giving you a full response? And are they giving you, first of all, a response? If both of those things are not met, you can notice that what you're doing might as well not feel like something the other person is really enjoying. And in that sense, it doesn't really seem to me that taking the approach of kind of asking questions for the sake of making the other person open themselves up to you is something bad. I, I am completely flawed in this sense. I obviously have always liked to go and kind of overbear people with questions and even more to give them a barrage of things that they might as well feel interesting to respond, or I think are interesting questions because I want to know those particular things about their characteristics, let's say. But I think, in a sense, it also has to deal with the fact that as individuals who are conscious about ourselves, we tend to disregard who we are, and we tend to kind of not properly feel interested. And also, hello, Masero. Um, we are right now on we are on the question of, yeah, we were analyzing because somebody said in one of the videos I saw before streaming, and, and thank you for your contribution. Somebody was telling about the concept of, you know, you probably, well, not probably, you can destroy your social relationships if you approach them from the side of you do not let others kind of be around you, because you always want to have the control of the conversation. And I was going on in this particular sense because, okay, it is kind of accepted that if you keep constantly talking, you are forcing people to, yeah, to take the role of simple observers. But at the same time, I was also observing, and I was interested in seeing and analyzing if it is also kind of a different approach to this same problem, or kind of a different way in which this problem could occur to anybody when we decide to actively overbear people with questions, and when we decide to almost interrogate others. And so far, I think, as I was saying, I already gave the point of, yeah, it can feel bad, and it can feel horrible, and it can feel completely, as I said before, overwhelming, because the other person might not really want to reveal so much about themselves. But on the other side, right now I was going, it also happens that as individuals, we tend to disregard ourselves, and we tend to not really want to discuss and to even more explore who we are in front of others so much, because when, and this is more of a deeper layer of social understanding, I would say, you know that it is bad to completely spill your whole story if nobody is really giving you signals that they want to hear it. So in that sense, I would even say it is kind of good to ask the questions which you really want to get answers from. And even more in this case, it will be good. Okay, I think the difference lies in the way in which you ask questions to the other person, or you ask questions, wait for the other person to give you their perspective on a completely unrelated manner, let's say. Because you can have a meaningful conversation full of questions, or you can have a fully hollow one because you decided, let's say, the example that came to my mind is you decided to have a conversation in which you didn't try to pay attention to what the other side was saying, and you ask constantly things that you saw in your phone, let's say, that you saw were happening in a social media while you were scrolling, while you were searching for news, and you only want to know, and not really, okay, I think, yeah, it is more of a complex thing because it has to deal not only with asking things and with asking opinions, it also has to deal with the fact that you ask those things without really expecting, well, not expecting, without really paying attention to what the other side has to say, and without even regarding their opinion as something that is worthy of being heard. And that is when it really becomes a conversation, and you end up becoming also a person who others do not desire to approach, I think. But at the same time, if you, going back to what I was saying before, if you find it possible, and even more, you find an interesting thing to ask questions about the individuals themselves, and even more, almost bombard them with personal things that give them the possibility of speak about who they are, what they are doing, what it is that they have interest on, how much time they could like to, or they like to spend on other things, how is it that they experience their day, their week, their months, their years, whatever. When you have the capacity of making those questions, it it kind of becomes a, more than an interrogatory. You become kind of a playful child who is asking because you want to know and because you want to have a deeper understanding about the character which you have in front of you, let's say, and you want even more to see and to properly kind of, if it is needed, let's say like this, if it were to be needed from you, you will be able to give a more proper response and even more proper and profound explanation about who they are because you were doing it and because you were paying attention and you were kind of putting together the puzzle that each individual is. And I think also something that appeared in my mind when I was saying before in the counter argument, um, you can you can only ask things. It also comes, and in this sense, I think it is kind of hard because it can also happen that you ask something and the other person answers, and before, let's say, giving you the possibility of talking once again, leaves their minute of spotlight. Let's call it like that, with a question for you too. It doesn't need to only be centered on the other individual. They also have the possibility of asking things and trying to get to know you better and trying to have a deeper understanding about who you are and trying to see more of who you also are because I think in that sense, yeah, it is a little bit more profound than to simply say probably overwhelming people with questions is a good way to get them to open up. Yes, because let's say like this, if you already think that it is bad to explain who you are, it might be because you think your life is not worth telling others. Or, yeah, it is kind of hard to find somebody who, when asked, does not really want to tell who they are. Um, if they are not, let's say, I don't think the proper word in this case is introverted because it has literally nothing to do with introversion in this case. It is more like, okay, you see yourself valuable to the degree to which you think your story is not worth telling others. Therefore, you will not really try to regard others as people that will want to hear mm, what you have to tell about your experience in life, let's say. While in the other side, I think it is, I don't know if it is completely or at the very least minimally true that you have the possibility or well no, not you, those people also have the possibility of exploring who you are and even more of opening up while also trying to discover who it is that they are talking with. And I don't think there is any correlation at all in seeing yourself as unworthy of being talked about and also speaking to others completely. I think because in that same sense, when you start to see that somebody's paying attention to you, and when you start to notice that people feels an interest in discovering your character, you also reciprocate that feeling, and you also have a real, I would say, not interest. I think it isn't the word. You have mm, almost the motivation, not the obligation, the mental or subconscious obligation of responding back what it is that you are being fed, let's say, because you notice the other person is trying to get to know you. Therefore, you might as well try to do your best to get to know them. And in that same manner, I was also trying to say it is possible for some people to really notice and to really create that sense of okay, unless I am asked about something, I am not going to talk about it because I don't think others will really want to hear completely unprompted this particular thing. And the people who really has that capacity are not socially incapable, as I was kind of throwing around with that concept before. It is more like they are well put together because you become aware what are the things people might not really want. And I don't really know that many people. In my life, I think I have seen like, okay, let's give a random number. I probably have seen 500 people at this point in my life, or similar. And so, welcome, welcome, Spanner. We are actually pondering. So, if you have anything interesting to add, if you want to ask anything at all, literally no problem. As I was saying, I think from the 300, 500 people that I have met in my life, probably like 10 at best really have that capacity. The rest try to shield themselves behind that excuse when in reality, if you were to ask them, they will kind of try to assess if you really have an interest or not, and try to really observe if what you are saying really is something that they want to respond or not. Because I will say, those who tend to sell themselves, or those of us who tend to shield ourselves with those things, we tend to think that we are deeper than what we are, and the explanations that we have are more interesting than what we could ever really expect anybody to really want to hear, and all of that. When in reality, it is more like in the deepest unconscious part of ourselves, we find almost, I don't know if it is an interest, I would say it's more like an underlying notion that, nah, brother, it isn't really that interesting. Therefore, I might as well try to make it something grandiose, let's say, and something truly, truly interesting for the sake of having it being like that, instead of simply accepting that others might as well really want and really even more have an interest in exploring those ideas and have an interest in seeing, analyzing, finding, and even more, mm, yeah, observing what it is that I have to tell them. But I don't think it is that bad. Or well, I mean, it is a problem, yes. It is still a problem that people has, but kind of finding the solution to this exists on the notion itself and exists on the possibility itself of finding somebody who kind of corresponds your own shyness, let's say, and corresponds the notion that, yeah, what I have inside myself is not something that I would like to share with others because I don't want to overwhelm anybody with it. When in reality, you will find at some point in your life, as long I keep in, yeah, I think in this way, as long as you keep searching for it, you will find somebody who is going to correspond your interest and somebody who is going to really feel like they want to, not feel, they will really want to hear you and they will really want to know who you are. In that sense, I think it is more of a notion of, okay, on a higher scheme, let's say like this, you need to have the interest in building a community and kind of if the word community itself represents something bigger than what we are talking about right now, we might at the very least simply use the word itself. Um, a group of friends. Okay, you might as well want to build a group of friends, and you might as well try to create one because if you are not searching for it, you cannot expect other people to try and approach you with the same interest. At the end of the day, even if we do not have our intentions completely written in our faces, let's say, you still notice when somebody is willing to talk about their things and when somebody is really willing to also hear you and when somebody is willing to, let's say, pay attention to what you have to also tell them and all of that and to explore the things which you're talking about with you and all of those things. And in this same manner, I think it comes, in this particular case, from the interest of having, as I said before, a community, a group of friends, a family, whatever you want to call it. And if you are not looking for those, you will have obviously a hard time finding people like that. but it also comes with the act of creating such a strong capacity and such a good, let's say, sense, sense, is it sense of judgment, guts, observational skill, something like that, something of that sort that can really tell you if the people who is in front of you is trying to approach you and is trying to have you also on their groups, on their communities, on their families, whatever it is, or it is that they are coming to you because of another reason, and it is that they are approaching you for the sake of really only solving more minuscule matters that really do not give you anything at all that you can really say, yeah, I am thankful for having them. I am thankful for the possibilities that they are giving to me. And I am even more interested in exploring them, not only because I think they are good, but rather because I feel we are going to get anywhere if we keep working on these particular things. So yeah, I think that is a good way to respond the question itself. It isn't that okay. Giving it a closure just in case. It isn't that you can't. Yeah, you will shy away people from you if you decide to ask questions or to overwhelm people in a more clear way. To overwhelm people with questions, it is only that you need to overwhelm them with questions about themselves and with a real interest in knowing their responses, because it is in the act of having a conversation, and it is in the act also of having, so to speak, the interest of hearing about them that you find it impossible to create any kind of connection. In that same manner also, it is important to accept that you need also to be open to the possibility, because it is going to happen, of first and foremost, and I think it is something that I haven't mentioned before, the moments in which other people are going to try and assess if what you're asking them is something that they really want to hear or not, or sorry, if it is something that you really want to hear from them or not, or if it is that you're asking that kind of just to make fun of them or to kind of use that to your own advantage in the future. So one of that thing on one side and on the other, after they respond those questions, also questions that are going to be directed at you, because you cannot really expect to have a conversation with anybody if you are not kind of having a ping pong conversation at all times. Because I have heard this concept before. The best way to have any social interaction is to have a ping pong way, but at the end of the day, isn't every single social interaction like that? I mean, if it weren't like that, we wouldn't have the possibility of hearing what other people has to say. It is kind of a given that we have ping pong conversations. I don't know why to give it that name right now, but anyways, aside from that, I think that's it so far at this particular area. Because yes, basically that's it. You can you can have a good conversation, and you can not shy away people from you simply because you want to know more about them. It is rather that you need to be open about knowing about them, and you need to have a real interest about knowing. But it doesn't mean that you can't do it, and it doesn't mean that it is in any sense similar to the notion of being somebody who only speaks about themselves and who only goes about the things that they want to know and who only um, delves on the knowledges that you have, and even more on the ideas that you want to harvest and all of that. Mm, And as always, also robbing others from the spotlight and all of that, things that are really more on the egotistical side, let's say. Water, beautiful. Let me, I think that is all for this particular topic. I, I, yeah, I am happy that I found that kind of response, because at first it appeared to me almost as if it was really going to be another way in which you ended up being socially acceptable, because a lot of times you hear that people really does not like to get asked questions. When in reality, it isn't that they do not like to get asked questions. It is like you need to ask questions properly, and you need to be open to the responses themselves, and not to be judgmental either. Okay, be judgmental neither, not have an interest in what it is that they are going to tell you, but it is not something that you can't do, to ask questions and to delve on the individuals which whom you are interacting and all of that. But yeah, I guess, yeah, very happy in that sense. And well, on the other side, I don't know, I have like too many things on my mind. I am a little bit struggling, yes, I guess, in finding what things to pull up from my brain. It feels kind of weird, yes, but aside from that, I think I have this one in particular which I wanted to explore, and that was if it is good to be tired, because we kind of talk about it not properly, kind of in a shockingly manner, with Tiny Vermin on her channel. She was talking about it, and I only gave my point of view on that, and not my point of view, but more like a simple rough idea as to why it might be interesting to be tired when you're doing, let's say, creative things. And I think I say it in a win, and I think it really could be useful to be kind of daydreaming constantly. At the end of the day, mm, I heard, I hear a lot of times that people has problems with putting or coming up with something really creative, and it is rather hard to find somebody who really is on the opposite end of this. Somebody who has such clear visions and such amazing and so incredibly detailed imagery on their mind that they end up striking in the opposite sense, one in which they cannot properly put into paper what they are observing. So we're not talking about those people, we're talking about the I guess the common side of this, those who are struggling with it, and I think it is enjoyable. Or well, it is a thing, personal opinion. I find it enjoyable to be tired, and I find it enjoyable to be good to do creative stuff when you are tired, because most of the time the tiredness which you have is a physical one, not a mental one. And at least in my case, what I find is when I am physically tired, my mind works, I wouldn't say better, simply differently. Therefore, if I am tired to the degree to which I am also feeling almost sleepy, I gain also, let's say, the boost of being almost daydreaming. And in that moment, my my personal imagination obviously becomes a lot clearer. And I think, yeah, in that sense, it will be a necessity to take proper care of your whole dreaming state and your whole well-being, in the sense of how much you can properly rest and how correctly you can, for example, yeah, I was trying to avoid it somehow, but I think it is unavoidable. How good or bad amount of dreams you are having and all of that. Because if you decide to disregard your dreams or nightmares because you think they mean nothing, when you start daydreaming, you are going to probably find yourself mostly having almost sleep paralysis while you are awake, or almost finding yourself freezing up because out of nowhere, in a corner of your eye, you saw a shadow, you saw a demon, you saw, wow, something so bad, wow. When in reality, it is only that you haven't been properly probably taking care of that mental side. Therefore, now that you have to deal with it, and now that you have to kind of own that side of you, you can properly take advantage of it, and you can't properly even more accept that it is useful for you, and accept that it might have some potential because how can you have a good experience if you never fix that part of you? How it is that you can have a good time daydreaming if you never really thought that it is needed for you to not be embedded in painful nightmares, be embedded in the whole concept of almost, let's say, even if it isn't simply a nightmare, bad dreams and not so good dreams and all of that. So I guess it comes in that sense. I think always it has to deal with a mental state in which you go to sleep, and it never stops feeling better the more you do it. The more you pay attention to your sleep quality, the more you notice how much of an even better state it can get to. So, in that sense, I will say, yeah, it is a worth adventure, a very, very worthy one. One of the few things in which, well, I don't think it is one of the few, it is more like one of the easiest things to upgrade easily because we have such a shallow knowledge about it when we haven't paid attention to it beforehand that in the instant in which we finally come across this particular event and this particular thing as something that could really be useful for us, we end up discovering how much of an even better state it feels and it can also get, let's say. So yeah, I think in that same sense, going back to the idea itself, I don't think it will be bad to be daydreaming. If you're obviously going for something creative, if you are going for something that is related to your imagination more than anything else, I don't think, for example, it will be useful if you're a. I don't know. I will say almost sports that are not so repetitive, like, for example, running, swimming, and all of those kind of sports, and cycling, and all of those sports which really only require you, let's say, to exert yourself physically in in a very simple manner, and to prove that you can be the fastest and all of that. Sports in which there is also the probability of doing things creatively. Let's go, for example, um, I think it is the not the best, but the one which I can explain myself in a easier way. Football. If you have the possibility of being more creative in football, you can also do things that other players could not, because it not only comes down to the physical skills that you have, but also to the mental skills and to the mental prowess that you hold in yourself to be creative enough to go over other rivals and to avoid getting the ball stolen from you, because your main goal is always to try and mark a goal, to try and hello Rosman, to try and basically be the one who wins, and in this case, be the one who does not also get the ball stolen while you are trying to win, because you can disregard everything else for the sake of let's see how much I can run, I can kick the ball, and I can make a goal, and I won't care if it gets stolen. I will try it in the next time. No, it is more like, okay, I am in the field and I am seeing myself in front of the goalkeeper, while at the same time somebody is coming from my left and I need to kick the ball. How it is that I am going to do this? I can simply kick the ball and I pray that it is going to enter. Or I can, let's say, okay, if I were to visualize in my mind how it is that I am kicking the ball and I am using it and seeing, okay, I'm going to kick it from this angle and it is going to go from, it is on the left, okay, it is going to go from the right, almost do a curve in the air, and it is going to enter, and I am going to make such an amazing goal. Wow! No, you need to be creative in those kind of things also. So, unless, as I said before, you're doing something really segregated to the realm of only, I will say, repetitive actions, only in those cases it is that you be properly, completely properly well rested. because in other things, the I don't know if it is an advantage. The different point of view that gives you daydreaming could be more useful than to simply being completely at your physical peak performance, let's say. Because I think it lies in, yeah, it is something that is in the middle. You need to find a middle point, one in which you can be comfortably doing those things while also playing and while also having a great time, and one also, let's say, finding yourself enjoying the thing which you are doing, not simply doing it and that's it, but also having a great time. Because I think in this particular sense, we're talking about creative things. Why are you going to do something creative if you're not going to enjoy it? And this is different, obviously, from the idea of, trying to do something creative and at first not having the motivation. Yes, it is different, but it still needs, even if at first it doesn't feel interesting, it needs to be interesting at some point or another, because you can never expect yourself to do things out of complete nowhere and without really regarding anything, as if you were a fucking machine. Nobody has that possibility. You could, yeah, I don't think, even more with creative stuff, you could force yourself to do it. Because if we're talking, let's say, repetitive things that have to deal with a work, with a task, with a lecture, with learning, with anything like that, you do it and you know that you have to do it no matter how you feel, because it is a part of your life and because it is something that you can't not only avoid, but also you might as well require to keep surviving. Yes, but on the other side, it doesn't mean, and it even more doesn't need to be something that you can't utilize properly, let's say. So yeah, I think that is not the best way to put it, but basically a good way to see it, probably. That daydreaming might as well become a, yeah, sorry, not a buff, a different tool to utilize, let's say. Because I don't think also some people is really physically prepared or being so tired all the time. I, for example, accept that, and yeah, it is very hedonistic, sorry, hedonistical stuff incoming, and it comes from the side of I spent some time physically training my endurance and physically upgrading my whole, let's say, almost as if this were a video, my endurance bar to have it not only being bigger but also depleting slowly. So even if I am right now feeling a little bit tired, it is almost in another realm of tiredness and in another realm of energy that I still have inside myself compared to, I don't know, 3 years ago, let's say. So yeah, it is not an easy process, I would say. But I mean, it, at least for me, it is useful. I guess if anybody is trying to get something creative going on, it will be useful to have it, I guess. But well, in that sense, I think that that's the idea. I don't know what else to add. Do we have anything else to add? Do you want to add anything else? Because if not, I might as well move on to do something different. Yeah, once again, it is that beautiful moment of saying, oh wow, I'm struggling so bad to find something interesting to say, and blah blah blah. When in reality, it is more like, just in case, I am trying to censor myself from saying anything that might not be really good to say. Just in case. I don't think it will happen. I don't wish for it to happen. But the simple acknowledgement of that possibility is what makes me aware of it. Because if it were to become a problem, and even more, if it were to become something that hinders my progress, in that moment, yeah, I will go kind of crazy. So let's say, let's see, what can I scrap from my mind? Um, yeah, I have in a personal note, I have no integrated once again to my life a clock And I am exploring the interesting part of having a constant ticking noise more than anything else because what time it has right now? It says it is three, yeah, 40, 3 hours and 40 minutes. I don't know which one because it doesn't have PM or AM, so I have to guess. Yeah, 340. Basically, that is all I can say that it has written down. And I only want it from the constant ticking noise, nothing else. And I am not so sure if it will be kind of completely useful tool, but I was thinking maybe it is a meditative key and almost good thing to have at hand because you want, or well, it isn't that you might find it interesting to have something that gives you a notion in this particular case, obviously, of time, because the constant ticking obviously represents a passage of time, and even more, in my case, it is a reminder that sometimes but not a reminder, because if I really get down to it and if I really delve into ideas, sometimes I can really feel how, while also not completely distracting myself, um, with a tiny bit of my attention, I can really also notice how sometimes, even if it is right now, it becomes a. So yeah, that's interesting to see, and I guess I wouldn't say it is something that I completely will recommend to anybody, but rather it is at the bare minimum something that I hope other people can find and can utilize in their lives. I am still thinking about how to properly convey this idea so far because yeah, I think it has to be what the fuck what was that sound? What the actual fuck was that sound? What the fuck? Anyways, what the fuck? Anyways, a paper breaking noise out of nowhere. Um, as I was trying to say before getting distracted by that sound, I think it has the capacity of being a tool which you can properly utilize in the sense of, at least I myself see it as useful because I can keep track of time properly. That is why, in these cases, I enjoy having that possibility. And even more, I enjoy the chance itself of having something that mm, is outside of my control. Because I know I can't do it, and I know I have, yeah, okay, I would say it like this then, because I just noticed it isn't that I can't, it is rather that I decided myself I am incapable of progressing any further on the exploration and even more the comprehension of how time works itself. But if I were to really put myself out there and if I were to really try and properly assess the problems which I have and also accept the responsibility that lies in my hand and progress in the problem itself, that is, I need to work and I need to properly, for example, something that happened yesterday. I was so hyper that out of nowhere I was already thinking it was Friday and we were going to go to we were going to pass into Saturday out of nowhere because my mind started to go so incredibly fast that I said, "Oh my god, I cannot believe it! I cannot believe it! We're already finishing this week! Yeah!" Well, in reality, it was only that I trapped inside my own self was going faster and wasn't properly keeping track of other things so that I could have a better grasp about reality itself and even more a better and proper comprehension about the tools that are at my hand to, let's say, see the world in a better way. Because yeah, I mean, why wouldn't it be very almost beautiful to notice that because you are going so fast, you feel like time is passing faster, when in reality it is kind of the opposite. Time kind of stretches inside of you because you're going so fast, let's say. I don't know, I don't know. I think in that realm, it has to be more with the reality itself. we do not even comprehend how our minds work in a more metaphysical level. Let's go for that kind of approach. So we do not really have the possibility of saying how much it is that sometimes the ways in which we decide to engage in the act of thinking might affect our perception of reality itself, and in this case, obviously, the perception itself of time, because we have never even tried to analyze and even more to think about the possibility of maybe if I were to spend X amount of time solving this problem, because I enter almost in a trance where I keep thinking and I keep going back and I keep analyzing and I keep working and I keep almost speeding up because things become clear and because things also have a more beautiful state, one in which I can almost feel like they are falling into place finally, and all of those things are constantly being regarded as true, let's say, because all of those things are applied to my mind. I can say after spending X amount of time on thinking that it felt like I was inside there for, I don't know, mm, 3 hours, when in reality I was only one, or I was only half an hour. But I guess the problem might as well also be that we do not really have a measurement, and we think we can do more work than what is possible in X amount of time, when in reality it is only something that we do not comprehend in such a level in which we can properly say it isn't that I really accelerated time inside of my mind or something like that. It is simply that I finally gave myself the opportunity of thinking about the things which I had almost pending before. Therefore, because I resolved something that was hanging in my unconscious self for so long, it feels almost as if I were liberated, and it feels almost as if I had gotten rid of a question that was hanging for so long, and all of that. It doesn't really have the property of being prolonged in time or anything like that, I think. So, yeah, very weird, I will say. I don't really have also the proper possibility of going over it, because it also feels still semi weird. I will try to add, as it is kind of noticeable that sometimes the ways in which the mind works of every single individual, obviously, is still kind of incomprehensible. And I guess I don't really have a problem with that. It is almost as if it only makes it more enjoyable, because not really seeing the whole veil and not really observing the whole reality itself, which exists in our minds, feels great and feels even more beautiful, because you stopped worrying so much about how it is that it works. Rather, you simply allowed it to be, and that's it. Um, but yeah, I mean, it isn't simply that. It has so many sides. It isn't that it requires a proper way to see it. It simply begs to be, mm, to be left alone. Let's say you cannot, at least so far, I would say, we cannot properly observe reality, even less have it revealed to us in such a way that we can really say ending at like, oh yeah, this is it, this is how this works, this is how anything exists, or things like that. In reality, it is only almost a concept which we decided to construct, and it is only a concept in which we decide to work ourselves around, nothing really else. But well, I mean, it is still not bad. It is only something which we need to keep working on, and because of that same reason, it feels great. At least that is how I see it. Not knowing where the end line is about something like this gives the possibility of exploring so much more than what we would have ever expected before. It will be amazing to see. And I guess, as I also have in the past a tendency to say, it feels very, very great, because you can avoid thinking that things are going to become even better when you see how much of a possibility is there for things to get better. I think, yeah, in a more personal note, but in a different note, it is hard to develop that capacity if you yourself do not cultivate that. Uh, don't accept also that it might as well be useful to have it at hand, but it still feels gray, and it still has kind of a faint notion underlying in us. Because if we were never prepared to accept things like this, we will never really have the possibility even of trying to analyze it from any point of view at all. So yeah, I think that is a good way to say things. I don't really know. To still, as I also say, I'm still struggling with ideas. So yeah, let me search for something different, because so far I don't think I have had so many ideas so far, but I am still kind of trying to decide for something else to analyze. Mm, well, I mean, no. I have I have an interest in talking about autoimmune diseases and all of that, but I am not prepared for that yet. Okay, let me say like this. I want to keep exploring and keep learning about it, just in case, because I don't think it will happen, but in the minimum possibility of this becoming something that in the future is absurd for the sake of having knowledge, probably, or a good, let's say that is a good resume of other matters. I wouldn't like right now to say something um, misleading. So at the very least, what I can say right now about what I have learned in the realm of autoimmune diseases, it plays a big role, the mind. That is all I can probably say. The rest is kind of fantastical stuff so far, because it seems like there is an even bigger connection than what could have anyone ever expected, and also it seems like the possibility itself is always open for others to keep exploring this kind of realm. It seems so far as one of the realms of reality, which not reality of health, which we haven't really explored so far. So yeah, give us a second, guess. I need. Okay, I'm back. And well, I mean, moving on to something different. I guess I cannot avoid it. I am sorry for going like 100 times over the same idea, but I still wanted to keep pondering on the concept of, in this case, how we give somebody who has a desire for creating the real notion that what they could want to do is useful, because I don't see it as something so simple to do, and even less to kind of bring into reality the whole interest that others hold regarding their their whole spectrum of yeah their whole spectrum, and also their whole comprehension of the world in which they live. Let's say sometimes we tend to think, it is a video that I wanted to write, but I decided to keep it to not to myself, but rather to the moment in which it is appropriate for us to do it, because I found a source that has very interesting stuff, and a video that talks about all the biases that we could fall ourselves into. And one of the things I think in this case applies is it was called the bias of personal experience or something like that, because we see it from our perspective. We think what we observe is true. In that sense, I think trying to give mm, yeah, trying to motivate people to do things has to deal with the act of showing them how much the world might really care or not, because sometimes it is also something that has to deal with the side of, oh no, everybody is going to get so much, everybody is going to think, and is going to observe me almost with a searching eye, and is going to destroy me if I commit an error on stream, or it's going to destroy me if I play the wrong note in this particular concept, or it's going to get me cancelled if I decide to give my opinion on this particular topic, or it's going to get me, it's going to destroy all my efforts, because no matter how much I try to make this particular animation, this particular game, this particular movie, this particular anything, this particular edit, this particular whatever, people is going to go after me and it's going to be so harsh. When in reality, it has more to deal with. We have released, or it isn't we, have you yourself found yourself in those situations before? Because, at least from a personal perspective, I haven't really seen that much people going through that whole stuff. I haven't really seen humans experience all of that in such a not unrelenting way, but rather in such a in such a being such a common occurrence. Let's say like that, because people doesn't really like to attack others. We like sometimes to attack what we see is wrong, what we feel could be corrected, in the sense of why would you try to make an animation and use AI for the sake of tracing and for the sake of making it a better one, let's say? Or why would you base your model of your characters in the animation itself of something that was made by AI, when you have also the possibility of exploring your mind and blah 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 blah? It has to do with more particular things. Not, it is kind of hard for people to really come after you, and I mean in that sense, it has more to do with the reality of learning how to properly control the mind when it comes to not letting external influences be so big on us, not because they simply can't be big, but rather because we learn that letting them grow as big as they want has literally no use at all. I mean, why would you let somebody who simply told you you are not so bad this influence you when they didn't really say anything at all? I mean, I wouldn't really take it as really something that has a sense behind it. I wouldn't really regard it as something that is even less important to pay attention to, when in reality, we live in a world in which we can utilize as many words as we want to describe things. It might require sometimes to change the medium in which we give our words to others. Yes, it is true. But it is also true that it does not make the act of speaking about our opinion impossible in any way. It only makes it better and even more clearer for us that we have a lot of different ways to do it. Therefore, if you find yourself, let's say, kind of teared down, or think that you are being teared down by people who literally say, nah, you're so bad at this, are you really being criticized? I don't think it is any other critique at all. It carries, in that sense, the same value as almost an insult, because the insults are the most crude way to show that you do not value other things, and you almost sometimes see them as dangerous, yes. In a more formal manner, simply saying that they are bad or saying that they are good, sometimes I will call, in fact, I will also regard those as not being proper or anything at all. Because if what you're saying wants to be really meaningful at all, should be conceived with the proper arguments, I think. I don't think it will be useful for anybody to simply say, oh yeah, you're doing great, you're doing bad, you're doing great. I mean, it is different when it comes completely unprompted than when it comes, let's say, shut, how is the audio, how is the audio? And somebody says, the audio is good, the audio is bad. That is a response, that is not something impromptu. That is a response, and that is something that has to do more with the real itself of, yeah, what I am giving you is feedback, and what I am responding is what you ask, obviously. So, yeah, I guess it is kind of, I will probably say, hard and even more complex to probably and properly um, see these kind of things as something that needs to be left. I don't think it is simply alone, but rather, oh my god, rather, it is something that rather should be only regarded to the level in which it does not become such a burden. Because I don't think it has also nothing to do with not taking or taking critique. It is more like, okay, is it really useful or not? Is it really good to hear it or not? Because, I mean, almost in a sense, and I think it is kind of sad to hear when people simply out of nowhere says, what you're doing is good, also has that same sense, how it is that it works. How, how can you say that it is good if you are simply putting the word good out there? Don't you want to give your opinion? Why are you limiting yourself in the act of giving your opinion? I, I am going to kill you. What is your problem? Why can't you properly convey what you think? I can't understand, at least I myself cannot understand anybody who comes and says, yeah, this thing which you're doing is. No, 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 no. Even that is clearer. Even that is more clear than simply saying, yeah, this or what? How it is that you can't give proper a proper feedback, my brother? So yeah, I don't think neither of those sides needs to be really paid any attention or earns the almost yeah earn. I lost the word from my mind. I am amazed. The quality yeah, they lose the capacity of being taken seriously, as they really have no real meaning behind them, I would say. But well, I mean, at the end of the day, at the very least, if you are needing that, and even more, if you're feeling like it is going to be useful to you, not in the sense of, oh no, I got told that I am so bad, and I'm going to leave. No, in the sense of, okay, I'm going to see and I'm going to analyze in reference to what was said. Can I work on this in any way? Can I take this from any perspective at all? Can I try to give this a closure? Can I try this? Can I try that? Can I see this from this perspective? Can I blah 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 blah? If you try those things, I think in those moments it is good. But if you never try that, and if you even more think it is never necessary to have that happen to you, it is in that moment that it is truly something useless. And it is in that instance that you might as well simply throw it out the window almost. Because yeah, I don't think it is useful to be so harsh on that. But well, so far my nose is already watering, so I have to do. This is so sad. Let me find somebody to say. Well, as always, meanwhile, it was beautiful. I'm very thankful for this opportunity as always. We are going to today. Yeah, today I think I am going to go for the first things. If the fucking internet decides to work properly. Yeah, I'm going to go for the first things and all of that. So yeah, and also we're going to ride right now. Who? Come Kamui CH, who is playing a Hot Wheels game, a racing game basically. And well, that's it. As always, people, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching the work. Thanks for everything. Thanks. Truly thanks. I, I think I had come to the conclusion that it really isn't hard to convey it. It is only that we think it is bad to say to such a deep degree thanks for things, when in reality, it doesn't really need to be like that. It doesn't really need to be something so hard. Thanks for everything. Thanks for paying attention. Thanks for hearing. Thanks for the view. Thanks for every single, so to speak, supporting factor and almost building block of this beautiful thing that we have gone here for now. So yes, also in a more particular manner, thanks to Runespoon, thanks Mr. Spanner, thanks Mosbroke, thanks. And obviously also sorry, dear bot watchers, dear lurkers, whoever thinks. Let me get this. I think the bot isn't working. It was working. Somehow it decided to not post the X amount of days. So anyways. Oh no, yeah, as always, thanks to you for everything. As I also tend to say, if it weren't for you, I couldn't be here. So yes, thanks. And now, also, it is time to take a break. It is time to relax ourselves. We are going to enjoy the world who's playing a video game. And when the opportunity arises in the future, we are going to come back. Now, yeah, raid, distractions, relax, goodbyes, whatever. Raid. 10, 9. No, I am going to hit the button myself.